Hey, it's Brad. So last night I went to record and sat down for too long, and next thing I know I'm being awakened by my wife at 5 a.m. sitting out here in my chair. So I'm going to go ahead and record once. They usually upload them after midnight. This will be the same day, and then I'll do another one shortly. So it seems like a good time to explore something a little more complex. So for a clarification of terms, when I refer to the brain, I'm talking about the basic meat potato, a simple centralized cluster of nodes in your neural network, and usually instinctive level all the way on all your synapses, and then as that gets more and more complex, that brushes up against the edge of your what I would refer to as your mind, which is your ghost potato. The patterns, the construct of complexes built upon those building blocks of basic pain and pleasure from the meat potato. And it's the pathways and patterns that rely on feedback to even exist. And then you're a spirit. I mean, just like, when you say school spirit, or, spirit of the country, or spirit of whatever, in the way that if that were personified, I am behaving as that. That is being in the spirit of that. So that's just resonant clusters of patterns and pathways. If an identity is, a unique set of weights in your neural network, a unique combination of balances of what gives you different pleasure and pain, and on a lowest level, pleasure and pain isn't the sensation of pleasure and pain. It's just reinforcement for things that are beneficial to the goal of that optimizing synapse. And so it wants to add more resources, and things that are detrimental, have been deemed to not provide a proper return on investment and should be separated from, or separated itself and into different conditions. So your spirit, or like generally if you refer to a person's one spirit, then it's the one that is their path, their pattern, they're set at that moment. And a soul would be your unique fingerprint combination of all these various spirits. Anyone can have a given spirit. That's the entire point of it. And that's how people can, unite around a spirit, or in a, one spirit. And your soul is your personal combination of those sets of conditions and spirits. And so the state of your soul is like the harmonics of those resonances. And it's works on different levels of pleasure and pain. Probably explore those. And then the aggregate harmonic, dissonance or harmony of all those different frequencies, waves, however you want to put it. And that's kind of the state of, rest or unrest. Because even if, very turbulent combination of waves could have some points where it's almost still, but if those waves are still coming, then it's about to explode again. And then there's the spark, which generally there's kind of two contexts that's used in, where when you refer to your spark, it's, the experiencer that is, kind of the passive side that feels, and then the like active one that, moving around, like deciding things, the active decider spark that's picking which pathways to go. And that I feel like they should be distinct, but generally the experiencer side is what provides kind of a internal source of sensory input by feedback. And then for the rest of your human neurobiome, your whole body system kind of propagates. And again, the crystal hippie side of things aside, to reappropriate the term, it resonates at that frequency. If your heart's pumping at a certain BPM, then all of your body, as soon as that's stabilized, will be pumping at that same BPM. So same kind of thing. You think of even down to just simple magnetic frequency. Magnetic frequency is not, that's a misnomer, but the frequency of magnetic waves as you can put through your blood. Don't take that to be as the whole thing, the whole mechanism, but I'm just using that as an example of how your system can sync up. But in terms of simple impulses and waves like that, your heart does resonate with the electrical cycles and brain waves coming from your meat potato. And then your whole gut kind of sustains and drives any sort of a resonating direction. And all of these things have different balances of how they're evaluating the inputs given and the feedback on whatever paths they're actively taking. And those are, again, pleasure and pain. And you have like a momentary and very sensory level pleasure and pain reflex. And then after that, there's kind of like the rebound of action, the return of whatever investment. And that can, amplify or negate or counterbalance whatever pleasure and pain there was in the initial. And that gets, as it starts to sink in, you have kind of the diagnostic result of it, and then again another scattering layer, especially as you process it and reflect on it, and then you kind of refactor and apply whatever knowledge to build more layers of the pattern of how a refinement of your neural net in a genetic algorithm kind of sense, back propagation of the error correction. Just try to optimize. But then eventually, in the longer and longer term, that just becomes memory detail that gives you kind of a reference. And then the longest and most external sense, where the axes rejoin, point at infinity, is the effective, reality of it, the external eventual state, how it'll all settle in. And that, it works as kind of a pyramid, and you can put it in multiple axes where you have, yourself to others, and pain and pleasure, and now and later, and good and bad just become that pain and pleasure on the infinite scale. And so then if you just think of the experiencer spark as being the one at that infinite scale, whether that's you at the end of your life or God, then any moment that your active decider crafts is what your eventual experiencer has to live through.